why aren't you, as you slip on your chili, why do you not bend the knee to radical centrism? Because it seems so obvious now that what were predominantly leftist talking points and positions about neoliberalism and the problem with neoliberalism is now being directly adopted by the populist right, about being anti-US imperialist, anti-tech oligarchy, although obviously there's a split there because Elon Musk is in charge.
There's an interesting,
true, but and fair enough, you're not in these spaces and a lot of people aren't, but there are many people on the right who are not happy with Elon Musk, including myself. I'm in favor of more free speech on Twitter, sure. I mean, just generally, I'm in favor of less like algorithmic and censorship bullshit generally.
But that's I'm in favor, though, and that kind of
not anymore. I agree. I will not. I will show you after we are done recording the example of. Well, I can prove to you that it's fucking the algorithm is fucked with the search stuff. So yeah, so he's gone back on that. But in principle, it was like, okay, if he buys Twitter, fine. And then the Doge stuff, I'm for reducing government efficiency. How he goes about it can be problematic. Fine, whatever. But my point is, like, neoliberalism. I was talking with his name's Jay Shapiro. He's a much saner, more sober person than I, and he's like a left-wing philosopher. And I'm going to talk to him at least a few more times. And he I read an essay of his that sort of cemented my idea of like, yes, neoliberalism is sort of the underlying problem. Mm-hmm. And I used to mock that, like, oh, neoliberal, that's like, hearing the word neoliberal would be like if you heard someone say the word snowflake. Like, oh, you're unironically calling someone a snowflake? My brain's turned off. I'm done. Right. And if a left wing said, neoliberal capitalism is a problem, or late stage capitalism, like, oh, yeah, go get your purple hair makeup.
This is why I say you're too intelligent to remain all that right wing for long.
Yeah, well, look, progress is inherently left wing, but at the same time. Well, hold on. I'll come back to that comment because that's interesting. That immediately invoked.
Well, I want to answer your question because your question.
Yeah. Why don't you bend the knee to enlightened radical centrism and join forces with those who agree with your fundamental critique of neoliberalism?
Because they don't.
And U.S. imperialism too, as another key part of that.
Because they don't agree for reasons that are safe for me and mine. Because the reason why. The reason why the right hates Freudian slip there. Yeah. The reason why the right hates neoliberalism is essentially because they feel like America's spending too much money helping undeserving populations around the world. They're not spending enough money here at home protecting our borders, putting drug offenders and black people in jail, and stopping trans girls.
Well, see right there. Even you know that you're kind of leaning into the bit.
I'm pouring a little spice in, but
okay, I am, which is dangerous. Right. I do the same thing.
You know what? I'm gonna.
I only recognize the danger because I recognize it myself. Of like, well, I got to be like I say, cringe atheist very often. I'm like, I should not alienate people who had genuine religious trauma, and just because I disagree with their intellectual positions on religion doesn't mean I should constantly. But.
So let me reel it in a little bit.
Yes, the right certainly dislikes the fact that we're spending money on, for example, the line is, why are we defending Ukraine's borders but not our own?
Right.
Which is, I agree with,
something you said earlier, and I was going to jump on it then, but I can't remember it now. But like what it comes down to is, like even the guy you mentioned before that's into ranked choice voting. It makes me wonder, does he want ranked choice voting so that it'd be easier to vote in more extreme right-wing people?
Okay, but let's say even if that was true, going back to your radical pragmatism, it's like, look, I recognize that if my enemy agrees with me on something, then I need to be like, well, shit, this isn't just a pure good, because if they agree on it, it must benefit them somehow. But the point is, it's the populist right and populist left versus the neoliberal establishment. So it's like, look, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
What position does my enemy hold on the board?
On the what?
On the board, like in the game. Like what position of power does he hold? And the populist left and the populist right may agree on things, but the populist right is 5 times bigger and 10 times more financially.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well,
a populist left includes like the cultural left, which the cultural left is pretty strong. Right. It's diffuse.
Yeah,
but sure.
Well, from my perspective, from my perspective of the left. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But overall, my point is that, here's an anecdote that maybe will make it make sense. there's all this talk about like the left doesn't care about men, and the left hates men, which is why such and such and such.
I know you guys do, yeah.
And like, there's an angle on that makes sense. But what really most of that comes down to is that the left is not able to utilize the same tools to engage with men that the right does. Men are socialized to see right-wing positions on masculinity and gender as more like reasonable and more viable and more aspirational in their life.
Okay, you ready?
Yes, go ahead.
Can I respond to that? Because that's correct. Perfect example being the left are the ones who will say that working out and advocating for people to work out is anti-disabled people. It's able-bodied to suggest that people should be working out and it's ableism. To encourage people to work out. Now, that is a problem that is inherent to the left, the right does not have, because the left's philosophy is fundamentally oriented in empathy, which is good. You need that. But that is an excess of the left that is self-defeating for them, just like there are excesses of the right that are self-defeating in different domains.
The left? Or
I would call that the one on the right is ever going to say that suggesting working out is ableist.
Well, no. So yes, that's a position that exists on the left. I'm not going to deny that whenever any left-wing guy posts a workout video, there's not somebody on Twitter with an anime avatar.
There's a lot of right-wingers who have anime avatars. Yes, the ones who really hate the Jews are hardcore on the anime
avatars in general, no matter what the political spectrum.
Yeah, it's problematic.
Problematic. I always know I'm dealing with some bullshit. Yeah. But so there is. So my point is that a popular, like, honest position of the left, or is that a position on the left that's magnified by right-wing framing?
So let me
just finish real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Because look at historically left-wing everything. Physical fitness is super important. Guns are super important. Training is super important. And that's why that fight comes up, because people will say, am I gonna drag the left on your show? Am I gonna go a whole anti-left wing?
Listen, you're free to do what you want.
Right. But like the online left is just really fucking stupid a lot of times. And you have the problem with the left is that the left is less a political, it's been mutilated so much throughout the last 50, 60 years to now, and then now has to be translated at least online through these venues where the most extreme and viable in the algorithm point positions become the most prominent and visible, even if they're not actually prominent in the actual.
True, correct. Mm-hmm. And this is one of my fundamental, if I had to write out The Art of Meme War by P.F. Chang, because Sun Tzu is Asian and P.F. Chang sounds Asian. One of the iron laws of the meme war is there is nothing that impedes your own ideological faction's interests more so than your own freaks. And so your point about like the online left is stupid, they'll say the able-bodied shit, that gets magnified though. And the right is choosing to magnify that. It's like, okay, true. Radical pragmatism. This is the battlefield we find ourselves in. When someone who calls themselves the left says this thing, people associate it with the left. And so that means the responsibility is on the real left to be the loudest critics of their own freaks. Same with the right, which by the way is same with the right. There's endless examples of this with a pro-life, pro-choice. I'm pro-choice for the binary is fucking stupid. But I'm more pro-choice.
The Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah, or Sister Cindy is her name on TikTok. She's like this crazy nun or whatever who's like, you're all whores you're all gonna get pregnant and kill babies. It's like she is doing more to marginalize the pro-life perspective than the actual like Ben Shapiro's or whatever, than the people who are critical of the pro-life.
So here's the thing with that. So that again, that on its face is reasonable, but what I found is, to me, it's more useful to critique the structure that produced that paradigm, and to be hyper focused on that.
Okay, that's fair.
Because I get and like because it creates because of the nature of the online left being an identity more than it is a political position to a lot of people. When you start doing that, you start attacking people's identities. And we also still want to hold space for the fact that going to the gym and working out is not possible for so many people, right? There's an angle to that argument that is relevant from a left-wing position. And so trying to balance all of those things
is impossible.
It's impossible.
Which means that at a certain point you have to draw heuristics and just say, actually, even if it is the case that saying you should work out might be genuinely hurtful to someone, too fucking bad. And that's the right-wing attitude that you have to incorporate into the left. But which the reverse is true for the right, where it's like, well, fuck everyone who isn't American. It's like, well, actually, if you claim to be Christian, Christianity is a world religion, and all life is holy or whatever, sacred.
Something Christian.
Yeah. And that's a real thing. So, it's these two. There's the left and the right, and then there's the freak left and the freak right, and the normal left and the normal right, and those two are the bad. And the enlightened center are the normal right and the normal left, right, and the synthesis of both. That's how I meme it, at least.
Because I think I think our freaks are really, really valuable. And
true, there is like a no bad press argument, right? Of like getting the ideas out there.
It's a lot of stuff to that. And I just know for a fact that if so we mentioned Soypa earlier, who's like into fitness, right? So if he posts something about fitness and some anime avatar says, "Oh my God, this is so ableist," unsubscribe. If he turns around and spends energy like addressing that seriously, it really is just it's genuinely a net negative, because the right wing and like the people who amplify that particular position on the left, they don't actually care to have it be addressed or solved. They want it to exist, and they will.
Sure, they're cynically using it for their advantage.
Exactly.
But this is my point. You said we should radically critique the structure that allows that, but you said the structures that allow that to be the case. And I would say, okay, there's a difference between critiquing it, which we should, and then also accepting it as a radical pragmatic reality of like, this is the battlefield that we're in. Okay. And if it's a meme war, we're in a meme war. This is the battlefield. Does it fucking suck? Yeah. Does it suck that, like, for example, in order to grow my channel, I need to be like thinking about what tweets I should make on a daily basis? I fucking hate that. And I don't do it as often for my long-term preserve my own health.
Useful. Like I would.
Well, it depends. Yeah, it depends. Different people will tell you different things of like, actually Twitter's been a great networking tool, stuff like that. So that, it's everything's cost benefit.
Right.
And which is to say we should still critique it and look for ways to improve it. But it's also like, I get what you're saying. Like if my ideological opponents accuse me of being supportive of X, which is an extreme, ridiculous thing, then me spending time criticizing it is like a waste of time. But it's like, well, hold on. My conception, we're in an ideological war. What is the metric by which you win an ideological war? How many normies do you convert? Okay, if the normie is exposed to everything now through social media and algorithms and politics, right? The normie is the critical asset here, right? Normie is the oil reserves in the Caucasus regions, okay? In World War II. That's Axis and Allies. Never mind. You have to secure the normies, okay? And one of the things that I value is me having close relationships with people who are completely non-political who were completely non-political, and then they entered the social media realm where everyone became political. And I hear from them the things that cause them to have opinions on things. So like, for example, I have one friend who's very smart. But he's not super political, but like when election time comes, I see him twice a year, maybe, when I go back home to Chicago. And he's like, Paul, all right, tell me what you think about this, right? Because he'll like watch some of my videos and stuff. He's like, he's sort of an archetype of like, this is the person who, like, if my video is resonating with him, then I know it's mimetically fit. Okay, this is what he said about. I'll just give this specific example on Israel. He's very pro-Israel. I am not. for the record.
Right.
And
it's not because you're anti-Semitic. It's not because you're anti-Semitic.
Nobody loves Jews more than I do. Okay. And there's a separate line that we need to that we need that on the going back to my problematic tactics. I want people to think that I'm anti-Semitic.
Oh Lord. Okay.
Not really. Everyone, but some of them.
I get what you're saying. You want to be appealing to the
kind of person that would listen to Nick Fuentes. I would rather have them listen to me. And if I make Jew jokes, just in the same way that I make Italian jokes or black jokes or whatever, I don't give a fuck. I do not believe that that's inherently worse than any. So whatever. That's a separate thing that we could talk about.
No, but we'll come back to that because I think that's interesting. But we're bouncing so many ideas off.
Yes, right.
Both of us are trying to scramble to keep.
Yes, on my normie friend. Yeah, so on my normie friend, he said the reason I'm very pro-Israel is because I see on the left, the queers for Palestine people, who it's such a in his mind. Mm-hmm. I will reserve my judgment, but I will just tell you what he said. It's like it's such an inherently contradictory idea. Obviously, hardcore Islamism is very anti-gay. And so the queers, especially like rich white progressives who don the queers for Palestine stuff, it's very to the normie, they go, and he literally told me, I don't know much about the issue, but I know that whatever side they're on, I'm on the opposite side. Mm-hmm. My assumption, I can't prove, but I believe I'm correct. And I would encourage the audience to reflect on it, to think is that is how most people form their opinions on most issues. Mm. Is who is supporting these issues. If all the fucking losers and weirdos and freaks are advocating for this issue, that's my heuristic. I'm not going to support that. Like that's what the fucking losers and weirdos and assholes support. Mm-hmm. Right. Like religion, right? Like, well, if all the Christians I know are fucking assholes and pretentious, well, I'm obviously going to be very antithetical to religion. Yeah. And so that's my point about your own ideology. Like if you are someone who is serious about trying to critique Israel's actions, you have to consider there's a group, the Queers for Palestine, extreme ultra progressives or whatever, who even though they're on your side are actually causing you to lose credibility with the normie population that you need to bring onto your side. And
so, and I think that's the fundamental difference we have.
Okay.
I would not point to blue-haired lefty ableism accuser and say that is why we're losing the normie battle.
Okay.
I would say we're losing the normie battle because we operate in a media landscape where that person gets way more attention than we'll just say deserving. We'll just say than they deserve for their view. That they get to become emblematic. It's really, I know we don't want to go there too much. It's really like the whole trans issue. That was like literally they spent more money. Trump's campaign spent more money replaying that one trans.
Yeah. What is it? Kamala's for they, them,
and not Trump for you.
Yeah. Which I saw that ad and I was like, this is the dumbest fucking shit ever. But apparently, I don't know how they measure it, but that was one of the most effective ads.
Yeah, super effective.
Exactly. So this is the battlefield that we are operating in.
Well, it's true, but I'm never going to say we're going to sacrifice this group for to optimize our position on the battlefield. But basically what I'm saying is if we say, okay, from now on, if anybody calls a guy working out ableist, we're going to just ream them for 3 days on Twitter, right? Once we do that, they're just going to switch to another thing. Because the problem isn't actually the people claiming that working out is ableism. It's the fact that the right wing gets to rearrange the board at their whim whenever they're not in a winning position. They get to recontextualize masculinity. Like going back to how we kind of got here, you look at the figures of masculinity that get so much love on the right, Andrew Tate, right? Fresh and Fit in them. And like,
yeah, but in and out, true. Okay, yes, Andrew Tate's influence is super significant. Fresh and Fit, I think, are much.
But you get my point. Like when you look at traditional markers of masculinity, aside from folks working out and getting tattoos, it's not really an explicitly right wing thing. In fact, at least just coming
family oriented provider kind of.
No, family oriented provider, yes. Masculinity provider. Because which of these motherfuckers have a family? I have a family.
Well, like Jordan Peterson, for example, I think is a way more.
And he's it though, and he kind of like he benzoed himself into that position. Like they recruited Jordan Peterson after a regretful, low time in his life. Like he was on his way there because of certain inclinations that he has, and he was amenable to that. But like in reality, a lot of those guys are not very masculine. They're macho, but there's no stability. There's no stability. There's no
all these fucking cowards. Yeah, they're degenerates. They're fucking cowards. Straight up degeneracy, which is interesting because the right has the language to excise its own freaks like that. The right is not afraid to call those. It depends on who we're talking about. The right, for example, I'm very happy to call Andrew Tate a fucking degenerate who made his money off of profiting off exploiting women,
I don't like
exploiting men. I know that's exactly and this is my point is. That's an example of a particular right-wing advantage that the left lacks. But there's reverse situations where, like, again, the right is susceptible to, what's an example of like the lack of empathy of like, well, I'm just going to say what's true, and then it's everyone else's problem if they don't get it. It's like, dude,
it's true, and that's the rule.
Yeah, right. It's like you need to have empathy, right? And it's like, obviously the right can go too far and all that stuff. Okay, hold on. There's I want
to respond to that because
go ahead.
I think you kind of set the stage for me to illustrate the thing. There's a quote from major feminist R.G. Lord: "The tools of the master will never dismantle the master's house." I may have butchered that in some form or fashion, but nobody in your audience will know.
I do. I studied it.
Awesome. I forgot you were a sociology guy.
I have a minor in gender studies.
Of course. So you kind of know where I'm going in that we're playing on the right wing's like game board. We're on their map, right?
The neoliberal map.
Neoliberal. We're on the neoliberal map, but the
neoliberal map. Yeah.
We're on the neoliberal map, but the neoliberalism is inherently right wing. It's just not necessarily identity politic driven.
See, okay, that I fundamentally disagree with.
Okay, well, pause there for a second.
Okay, I'll make a note.
Yeah, we're gonna go into this. We got so much to do, and good luck editing this together.
Yeah,
that it's somewhat cohesive.
Listen, it's cohesive as it is.